We need to do a follow-up segment on the segment I did about Trump's press conference, because we covered already the portion, you can't really call it delivered or prepared remarks, but he did deliver remarks that were somewhat planned potentially and did that part. And then he took questions. And we haven't yet covered him taking questions. And his back and forth with reporters was disastrous, truly, went even more somehow off the rails than his prepared stuff. And let's get into that. This is him upset with a reporter's question. That happened a few times during it. He will get into, unfortunately, the vile attacks against Vice President Kamala Harris's identity, which, as vile as they are almost to Harris's advantage, because all this does is sabotages Trump. People don't like the way that he's attacking her. That's actually helping her and some other bonker stuff. First this. And the question is, if you can't hear it, some of your allies are concerned that you're not taking the campaign seriously enough, because in the last week you haven't really done much campaigning.
What a stupid question this is. Because I'm leading by a lot, and because I'm letting their convention go through, and I am campaigning a lot. I'm doing tremendous amounts of taping here. We have commercials that are at a level I don't think that anybody's ever done before. Plus, in certain cases, I see many of you in the room where I'm speaking to you on phones, I'm speaking to radio, I'm speaking to television. Television's coming over here. Excuse me, what are we doing right now? She's not doing any news conference. You know why she's not doing it? Because she can't do a news conference. She doesn't know how to do a news conference. She's not smart enough to do a news conference. And I'm sorry, we need smart people to lead this country.
Based on watching this press conference, I don't think anyone walks away thinking you're the smart person we need to lead the country. Here he gets asked a question about his attacks against Vice President Kamala Harris's biracial identity and gets right back into it.
Mr. President, Kamala Harris's father is Jamaican American, and she went to a historically black college. How is she only recently deciding to be black?
Well, you'll have to ask her that question because she's the one that said it. I didn't say it. So you'll have to ask her, and I very much appreciate that question, but you'll have to ask her. But I've known her for a long time. I actually contributed to her campaign a long time ago because I was a developer. I contributed to lots of campaigns of Democrats, Republicans, and some were liberal and some were conservative. But you'll have to ask her about that. But to me, it doesn't matter. But to her, from her standpoint, I think it's very disrespectful to both, really. Whether it's Indian or black, I think it's very disrespectful to both. To me, it doesn't matter.
Do you hear what he's saying? It doesn't matter which one you are, but it's very disrespectful that you've identified as both because both are a part of your identity. And he has been posting, to be clear, when he says she said it, all he means by she said it is she's said that she's biracial, right? She's said she's both black and of an Indian heritage. And so for him to then say, you should be asking her because she's the one who said it. Yeah, she said her identity, but you're the one saying something fraudulent about that. And Trump has been posting, remember, her birth certificate on Truth Social, which doesn't prove what he thinks it does, but still super creepy. And he's trying to assert that she's not black. That's what he's posting. And then he's saying it's offensive that she would dare identify with both. Nobody except for the most MAGA of the MAGA people who we weren't going to reach anyways resonate with that. So while he should stop because it's so gross, from a strategic point of view, continue this and you're going to lose. Then he's also upset with this reporter's question.
Say it.
Are you worried at all about the size of Harris's crowd?
Oh, give me a break. Listen, I had 107,000 people in New Jersey. You didn't report it. I'm so
Because that is not true, but okay.
glad you asked. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? If I ever had 2,000 people, you'd say my campaign is finished. It's so dishonest, the press. And here's a great example. I had in Michigan recently 25,000 people, and 25,000 people we just couldn't get them in. We had in Harrisburg 25,000 people, and 20,000 people couldn't get in. We had so many. Nobody ever mentions that. When she gets 1,500 people, and I saw it yesterday on ABC, which they said, oh, the crowd was so big. I have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the crowd size.
Oh gosh. This is a really desperate person having to compare crowd sizes like that and be dishonest about the size of yours. That's what he's been reduced to. It's very unfortunate stuff. Then he's really struggling to get off the topic of crowd sizes, and he says he has been able to get a bigger crowd than MLK Jr.
Never see the picture of the crowd. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken. I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people. If not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people. They said I had 25,000, and he had 1 million people, and I'm okay with it because I liked Dr. Martin Luther King. Yeah.
Wow. I don't have any interest in getting into fact checking that, because the fact that he feels the need to say that is a really good sign. And it's so pitiful. It's so pitiful. It really is. And this is what I told you. When we saw the first packed Harris event, I said, this is going to trigger Trump a lot. Because a big part of his brand is being able to get big crowds. And to me, while, as I already mentioned, big crowds are fun, for sure. And when it's a candidate you support, seeing that is exciting. But whether you have big crowds or small crowds, getting people to go vote is a thing that matters. And Trump often uses the fact that he'll have some events that have big crowds. We can perfectly admit, even as he overstates them. He'll use that phenomenon as proof that he couldn't lose the election, which is what he said last time. And so then I talk to Trump supporters, and they think that because they go to events with big crowds, Trump can't lose, and that's why they believe 2020 was stolen. So because of how much stake and stock he puts in that, I knew it was going to make him really upset that Harris, in one of the venues, they were both in the same venue just a few nights apart, and hers was clearly more packed, and it indeed is triggering him. So we were right about that. And it's, again, just sort of a pitiful thing to get so obsessed with. And then he says this is just bizarre.
Would you consider granting clemency or a pardon to Hunter Biden?
I don't think it's appropriate for me to talk about it. I think it's a tragic story. You want to know the truth. And I felt that with Hillary Clinton, too. You know, with Hillary Clinton, I could have done things to her that would have made your head spin.
What?
I thought it was a very bad thing. Take the wife of a president of the United States and put her in jail. And then I see the way they treat me. That's the way it goes. But I was very protective of her. Nobody would understand that, but I was. I think my people understand it. They used to say, lock her up, and I'd say, just relax, please. We won the election.
Is that what you would say? Is that really what you would say?
I'll tell you something, though, and it's very lock them up. You shouldn't lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary. Lock them up.
Yeah, lock them all up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up the Clintons. Lock them all up. Who cares about laws? And, you know, he's lying, obviously, about being protective of Hillary Clinton. Reportedly, he wanted her to be targeted, but at that point in time, he didn't have enough loyalists around him to get it done. And also, there wasn't evidence of the type of criminality that would justify such a thing as the investigation concluded. So that's the law and order process. Sometimes prosecution is not justified. But one thing I find weird about every time he says this, he really does want presidents to be kings, because he always calls Hillary Clinton the wife of a president and says it as if that means she shouldn't be held legally accountable. Like he's saying that he thought there was evidence of crimes, but he protected her because she was the wife of a president, referring to Bill Clinton. In so many ways, that's weird. First, she is the wife of a former president, but it's sort of weird to say that's the thing that made her someone you would treat specially. I don't think you should treat anyone under the law specially, but he does, clearly. He just admitted. But the way he classifies her in his mind is just the wife of a president. Even though after Bill Clinton was president, she went on to be a senator and then the Secretary of State and then a presidential nominee. But the definer, that I don't really know exactly why that strikes me weird, but it's just weird to me. And then he's saying, so if you're the family member of a president or a former president, you should be treated differently. Why? Why do you keep bringing that up? He keeps bringing up that she would have been prosecuted by him, which is not how the presidency is supposed to work, but if it weren't for the fact that she was married to a former president. No, but stop with that. We don't want people to be treated differently. The reason she wasn't prosecuted is because there wasn't evidence of the criminality. So strange. I have been truly stunned and overwhelmed with gratitude every day seeing how many people lately are watching the show and subscribing to the show. New people joining the community. It's incredible. If you haven't yet clicked that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Back to the video. Here's more.
I think I'm going to get along great with China. President Xi of China. And
yes, we know. Oh gosh, here we go. We know you're... I've got a Xi crush. I hate to admit it, but...
President Xi of China and I were very good friends. We met right here, right in that, except we had a beautiful sofa there, as opposed to what we have right now. Right now we have you. But President Xi...
Awesome spatial awareness.
President Xi and I had a very good relationship until COVID. And I held him responsible for COVID. It broke up our relationship. But I think we're going to have a great relationship. And I think it's going to be mutually beneficial. But
I said it broke up the relationship. Isn't that heartbreaking? I said, President Xi, you've loved me so well, but we have to break up. It's not me, it's you. Oh gosh, what a press conference. And then he does this again. You know what? Do it, Trump. Attack a popular governor. I don't think he should be that popular, but he's popular. In a state that you need to win, who's in your party because he want to overthrow an election on your behalf. Go for it. Look at how disheveled he looks. Just so bummed out. It cracks me up. Can you zoom out the camera, Jaden? I promise I'll play this clip then. It's hilarious when he stands like this with just his hands sort of by his side and then just swings them and looks sort of pouty, which is what we're getting in this moment.
I don't know if I can or not. I got him elected. Without me, he wouldn't be governor. I got him elected. He was doing terribly. I got him elected. With that being said, I hope we can repair it. But if we don't, the people are still the people, and they're going to vote. We're leading in Georgia by a lot. We're leading in Pennsylvania by a lot. So, but I don't know. Now, in Pennsylvania, I have great relationships. In Georgia, I do too, but unfortunately not with the governor. I've never understood it. When you get somebody elected, they're supposed to like you. He's not exactly, for some reason, and you'll have to ask him about that. Yeah, I'd love to see it get repaired. I think that if we don't win Georgia, Georgia is a big win, is a big state. So I won Alabama by a record. Nobody's ever gotten that many votes. I won South Carolina by a record. You don't win Alabama and South Carolina by records and lose Georgia. It doesn't happen. And the people of Georgia understand that. There was tremendous...
He's very dry mouth right now. He's struggling. Gotta get situated in there as he's talking. Just very... sort of back to his old, frantic self that became very present on the 2016 campaign trail. And just, it all strange. Yeah, it's just not a good political strategy, But at a different point, he said no one in the history, just for the sake of time, I'll skip over some of this that's not super significant. He said no politician in world history has had crowds like him, which, interestingly, there's one comparison they really don't like when we make to someone historically, and he got some very, very big crowds, but again, they don't like that comparison with Donald. We'll play this as well. And this is a question about the peaceful transfer of power. Biden made a statement. He did say incorrectly the first time, but then corrected himself. And the point he was making is if Trump loses, they're going to probably try to interfere again with the peaceful transfer of power. Now, the fact that Trump's not president right now like he was last time when we went through this makes me feel better. But still, there are a lot of concerns around that. Pro-Trump election officials, etc., getting crazy.
Well, he actually said it two ways. First, he said it incorrectly, then he corrected himself. Do you agree with that, right? You know, if you watch him, he said it two ways. No. I mean, he said it two ways because he doesn't really know what he's saying. Why didn't he bring it up at the debate? You know, he had a chance for 90 minutes to bring it up at the debate. He could have talked about that at the debate, and he didn't do it.
Didn't he? Wasn't a question asked about that? And he said he commits the peaceful transfer of power, and then he observed as Trump didn't.
Everyone said, oh, he said this and he said that. He's just, you know, they give him something to read off. He read it very badly because he actually said it the opposite. Then he had to go back and correct himself. He said the opposite. He should have brought this up at the debate. If he had a problem, of course there'll be a peaceful transfer. And there was last time, and there'll be a peaceful transfer. I just hope we're going to have honest elections. That's all. Okay?
Honestly, kind of good to hear him say that, even though we know he won't necessarily abide by it. And I think he's saying it because he's not in power, so he'll have less of an ability to interfere with it. But no, there wasn't a peaceful transfer of power. There eventually was a transfer of power after it became no longer peaceful. Do you not remember that, Don? Earlier in the press conference, he bragged about the size of the January 6th crowd. Do you remember what happened after that big, grand, wonderful crowd, bigger than anyone in the history of the world? Do you remember what happened after that? And why that happened? Because you were also engaging in illegal schemes to block the music. Yeah, you guys all know it. Okay, MAGA's not listening anyways. Why am I going to go through that again? Let me know what you thought of all of that in the comments. And if you want to get extra content daily, you can get it by clicking the join button below.